what lessons do you draw from those other famines, if you've looked at them, or in general about famine that are manufactured by the decisions of, let's say, authoritarian leaders?
Famine doesn't have to exist, or the bulk of famines on this planet, I believe, don't have to exist. And most of them, or at least a good number of them, are manufactured by the leaders that choose to use famine as a weapon, right? And Ukraine is one of the obvious examples right now, with siege tactics that are happening in different parts of the country. And, we built international humanitarian law for a reason, right? Many years ago. And it continues to be written to this day. And it's there to prevent what's happening in Ukraine right now. It's there to prevent what's been happening in Yemen for 7 years. And yet there hasn't been any teeth behind it. And that's what disturbs me, is that we can see how these famines are being used as weapons in war. And yet we aren't sort of using the levers of power that exist in order to, I think, to call out in important and powerful ways those who are causing them, and to make sure that we hold them accountable on the global stage. Now, to some extent, that seems to be happening in Ukraine in a way that hasn't happened for a long time, and that gives me hope, right? And yet, I don't believe we've done enough. And I think the international community needs to do far more than we are, both in Yemen, in Ethiopia, and in Ukraine right now.
There are certain kinds of things that captivate the global attention, and it seems like starvation is not always one of them. For some reason, murder and destruction gets people attention more. The death, of course, is easy to enumerate, but it's the suffering that's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. When we went to film Hunger Ward, that was one of the creative questions that I was really concerned about, because starvation, it's not a quick action, right? It's a long, slow, insidious process, right? Just like hunger, right? And yet when you're hungry, right, it takes you over. It becomes the most important thing, right? It's just absolutely fundamental to life. It's like drawing breath. And so I really, before I filmed Hunger Ward, I struggled to sort of answer how we could creatively approach that, because, someone's sitting in a clinic, right, starving or being treated for starvation, that's a pretty static scene, right? And what we found was that because of the volume of cases and because of the nature of sort of how quickly people were coming and going, is that it was more dynamic than we anticipated.
And there's something also about starvation. You get tired. It's almost like it's a quiet suffering.
Yeah.
And by the way, there's something about when I think about dark times. I mean, you'll hear me chuckle, for example. I don't know what that is. That's almost like it's almost like you have to kind of laugh at. You can't help but laugh at like the injustice and the cruelty in the world. Somehow that helps your mind deal with it. I mean, I see this all the time. Like when you're struggling, you can't feed your family, you lost your home. The last thing you have is jokes about
It's humor.
Yes, humor.
It's
like, the fucking man fucked me over again. And there's jokes all around that.
Yeah.
And then you laugh and you drink vodka and you play music. I don't know what that is.
It's gallows humor, right? It's a way of I think simultaneously acknowledging and allowing yourself to move forward, right, beyond the pain and the suffering.